Hello, this is Pastor Ricky Hart of Vision Church, and this is today's Vision Word for you. And today's word comes out of Psalm 17 and verse 8. Now, the setting, we're not quite sure of the particular situation that David is facing, but what we do know is that David is running from his enemies. David is looking to God for protection and safety, and he's crying out to God in this prayer or in this psalm. And listen to what David says, asking God for protection. He says, "Keep me as the apple of your eye. Hide me in the shadow of your wings." Two very interesting figures of speech are being used here, the apple of the eye and being hid in the shadow of the wings of God. Now let's look at what these really talk about. What does it mean to be the apple of God's eye? Well, we have to think about what the organ of sight, the eye. And the eye is the most delicate of all of the human organ. It is the organ of sight. And God has placed tremendous protection for the eye in the human body. If you think about it, the eye is in a socket, and in this socket there are protruding bones, there's an eyelid, an eyebrow, and there are eyelashes. All of these serve as some type of protection for this most precious of all human organs, the eyeball. And can you imagine if the eyeball was in a different location? Can you imagine if the eye was on top of your head, or on the back of your head, or maybe in the palm of your hand, or on the sole of your foot, or on your kneecap? No, God put the eye in the right place, and he put it in the place of much protection. Any of the tiniest irritants that would get into your eye, man, they're very, very hurtful, very painful. The smallest amount of dust or lint or grit can get in there. Even an eyelash can fall into your eye, and it hurts so bad, almost, incapacitates you in a sense. You got to get that out. Well, David is saying about himself that he wants to be that tender part of God's eye, the most tender part. He wants to be the apple of the eye. Now, in the Hebrew, the word means the daughter of the eye. Now, the way that we would think of it today would be the pupil of the eye. Well, there's an interesting word that comes into play here, and it's an old Dutch word, mannequin. And it's the word that we use today for mannequin, like we see in a department store or whatever, modeling clothes or shoes, any type of thing like that, a figurine. And that word, if you think about it, little man or figurine, if you think about a person's eye, sometimes you can get a reflection of what they're looking at. Sometimes you see it on a video or a photograph. Sometimes they even use it, for production purposes in movies, to zoom in on what that person is seeing. But if you think about the pupil, the center of the eye, and if you think about the little man, the mannequin, imagine that David says, I want to be that little man. I want to be that mannequin. I want to be the daughter of the eye in the Hebrew. I want to be in the pupil of your eye. The thing that's being looked at, brought down in size tremendously to where the reflection fits into the pupil. And that's exactly what you have. You have the figure of a little man. You have the image of a little man in David's case. And David said, that's how close I want to be to you, God. That's what I want. I want your focus. I want to be at your attention, God. I want you to be looking at me. I want to be the focal point of your attention. That's a tremendous picture when you think about it, that God would have his attention focused upon an individual, focused upon David, focused upon me or you. And in the book of Zechariah, chapter 2 and verse 8, speaking about the protection for God's people, it says, he who touches you touches the apple of his eye. And that's speaking to the Jewish people, the Israelites. And man is speaking a lot about the protection that God provides for his people. That if you touch that person, it's just like poking your finger in the eye of God. So a tremendous picture, word picture, if you will, about the importance that we have as a child of God, as God's people. Now, David says, keep me as the apple of your eye, that pupil of your eye. And that most delicate part of the eye, the pupil, and all this part that God has placed this protection around, it shows that we ourselves are delicate. We ourselves are helpless without that protection that God has provided. The eyelash, the eyebrow, the eyelid, the socket there. Those things, if they were not there, the eyeball would be exposed and would be subject to, to damage, and certainly will not be able to be the organ of sight very long. But God has not given us a body like that. No, He's provided that protection for that. And so David is saying something similar to that. God, I want to be hid in that eye socket. I want to be protected like that eyelid protects the eyeball, like the eyelash and the eyebrow. I want to have those multiple layers of protection, Lord, because I myself, I realize I'm delicate. I myself realize I'm no match for my enemies. But Lord, if you'll protect me like the eyeball is protected, if you'll keep me in the center of your focus, Lord, then I'll have nothing to worry about. So a tremendous picture there being the apple of God's eye. Now, he moves on and he also says this, hide me in the shadow of your wings. Now, we're not to understand here that God has feathers or God has wings. Again, it's a figure of speech. And the image is of like an eagle, if you can imagine, the mother eagle, and she has these baby chicks in her nest. And maybe there's birds of prey that are coming around. Well, what does she do? Well, she's going to protect her young. So she stretches out those big wings, and she grabs that small chick, and she puts that giant wing around that chick and draws that chick into herself. And so the outside of that chick is being protected by the wings that are completely covered, completely protected. And while being ever so closely drawn into the mother's bosom there, where there's warmth, where you can feel the heartbeat. You probably even hear the heartbeat there, and knowing that this little bird is being protected by her mother, by his mother. What a tremendous picture that is, you know. In the picture of the eye, we've got all these protections here for the most delicate organ, but there's still just one part of man. But when you look at the fact of the eagle hiding her little chick, that whole animal is protected. Nothing is left uncovered. All is brought in and all is protected. And so that speaks again about a tremendous protection that God provides for his people, not only for the delicate parts of us, but also for the whole person, for all of our external needs, for all of our external parts. God has provided protection for us in the shelter of his wings. You know, God has made this available not only to David, but also to you and me. There's a tremendous picture of protection. You know, as the eyelid will blink from 1/10 of a second to 3/10 of a second, 1/3 of a second, we would say. And so this speaks about the instantaneous protection of God. God comes to our side instantly. I mean, if we're that little man, if you will, if we're that mannequin in the center of God's pupil, God has his attention upon us, then he is immediately able to come to our side. He is instantly able to come and provide that protection for us as he does. I like that picture. I also like this picture that David uses about the wings of the mother eagle reaching out and protecting her young. You know, it provides complete and total protection. That young bird has nothing to fear being in the wings of its parent. And you know, the same thing is true of us. I like what Paul says in Colossians chapter 3, verse 3. He says, "For you died, and your life is now hidden with Christ in God." I can't think of a safer place that we could possibly be than with our life hidden with Christ in God. If you're a believer, if you're a follower of Jesus Christ, that's how well you are hidden today. That's how well you are protected today. Not only are you protected in a moment, in a flash, like the eyelid, but God also provides that total protection for us in Christ Jesus. Well, I hope today's message has been an encouragement to you. I thank you so much for watching, and thank you for sharing. May God bless you.